There is breaking news here at Championship Rings this evening. We are back. Brandon Lewis, Josh Ungar. Josh, let's get right into it. Nick Saban is no longer the head coach of the University of Alabama.
I am shocked by this news. I didn't think Nick Saban would retire after a loss. Because, as we know, him and Alabama lost to the eventual national champion Michigan Wolverines in a thrilling college football playoff semifinal game at the Rose Bowl, which, again, the playoff committee got it right. But my point still remains. I'm shocked that Saban would retire following a loss like that. It's kind of my same reaction when Brady left the Patriots. I get that it was different scenario, different situation, all that. But still, like Brady left the Patriots following a loss in the playoffs. So,
well, I thought Brady would leave. There was reports of Brady leaving before the season. It kind of did feel like the last dance. There was nothing out about Nick Saban leaving Alabama.
sure.
So this is a total shock. And listen, we know Nick Saban has been doing more media appearances lately. Obviously he goes on the Pat McAfee show every Thursday, which is something he'd never done before. So maybe this is Nick's way. Maybe he's gonna get into TV. Maybe he just felt like it's time. And we've talked about this a little bit when it comes to college football, and we've talked about it a lot when it came to Jim Harbaugh, who we'll get into later in the show. But compared to the NFL, I'm just going to say it. College coaches have to deal with a lot of bullshit. NIL, transfer portal, recruiting, parents, boosters, alumni. It's a lot of junk that makes
And draft.
and that is a lot of junk that, in my opinion, college coaches have to deal with. And you can make an argument next to being the president of the United States and maybe the hardest job in the world. Maybe Saban just felt, excuse me, maybe he just felt like it's an offensive leaning sport, as we know. Dealing with the NIL transfer portal. Maybe he just didn't want to do it anymore. Who knows?
It's weird. It's odd timing though, because you have the SEC moving to ESPN next season. You've got Oklahoma and Texas both coming into the SEC next season. And of course, we have the 12-team playoff going into effect next season. So I find the timing a little bit odd.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new era. We know there's going to be 4 new teams going to the Big Ten. We know Texas and Oklahoma are heading to the SEC. The SEC is getting better, and we saw Alabama this year, really struggle. They did beat Georgia, but they struggled with a lot of teams. And Jalen Milroe, we saw he's not the best quarterback. At 72 years old, I think maybe Nick Saban just kind of said enough is enough. The run is over. And we kind of felt like that, Josh, going into this year anyway.
I wonder. We'll talk about this more when we get into the NFL side of things, but I wonder if Belichick kind of follows the same route as Nick Saban here. I wonder if they're kind of tied at the hip.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Or you know what? Somebody brought this up, and I can't believe it. But would Nick Saban follow Belichick to his next job as the defensive coordinator?
I doubt that.
Could you imagine? Because don't forget, Saban was Bill's defensive coordinator when he was in Cleveland.
That's true. And again, we'll get more into Belichick and all that because I have no idea what the Tennessee Titans are doing getting rid of Mike Vrabel.
I completely disagree on that. I can't wait for that conversation.
But anyway, getting back to Nick Saban, I mean, I feel like you could honestly make an argument that even though he's been in college where he's had all his success, I feel like you can make a strong argument he's a better coach than Belichick. What do you think?
I think Nick more than Bill has adapted to the offensive philosophy in football that we have talked about. I think Nick has realized in college football you can't stop anybody. But I think winning in the NFL is harder than winning in college. Saban did not win in the NFL. Belichick had a 20-year dynasty. Yes, he had Tom Brady, but Belichick, for the first 10 years of that dynasty, Belichick, in my opinion, was the real driver. The second half, I think it was almost all Brady. The first half, especially the first three rings, were almost all Belichick. Um, I think they both have their own specialties. I think Bill was a little more rigid than Nick, but I think Bill strategically is a better defensive coach than Nick. We've seen Nick struggle with the likes of Deshaun Watson and stopping good college offenses in the last 5 years, and Belichick has been able to somewhat thwart a good NFL passing attack, even when he does not have a great offense like he's had the last few years.
Fair. You do bring up a good point how, like, when Alabama played Clemson in the national championship, Trevor Lawrence absolutely smoked them.
I'm not even talking about Lawrence. I'm talking about Deshaun Watson. What Watson did. Again, and Lawrence too, but what Watson did, those were the 10. Clemson won once and Bama won once. Those back-to-back national championship games.
No, Clemson beat Alabama twice in the national championship.
Did they beat them twice? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was wrong on that.
It was 2019 and 2017, I believe it was.
Did they play Watson twice? I could have sworn they played Watson twice.
I could be wrong on that. One of them was Watson. 2019 was Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. So my apologies on that. Again, Josh is the more college football aficionado than me. But the Watson game that he did play, I remember that being one of the best games I've ever seen a quarterback play against Coach Nick's defense.
Yes, but it still came down to the final seconds when Watson made the touchdown pass to Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah. Listen, I think that we are all in total shock. There's a lot of news today surrounding both NFL and college. And Josh, the common theme here really is defensive coaches. Vrabel out, Staley out, Saban out, Rivera out, Pete Carroll out. Now,
that was the one that was most shocking to me.
There is a wave in today's NFL. Belichick probably out as well now. I've talked about this for how many weeks on this show and dating back to Brandon's World. I think we are now seeing the trend that I think you're going to see, which is more than likely offensive coaches are going to be the majority of head coaches moving forward.
We will see. It's whoever becomes the next head coach at Alabama is going to have some big shoes to fill. Holy crap.
It's interesting to me, the names that have been thrown out there. Dan Lanning over at Oregon, Caleb DeVore at Washington. We know Washington is going to lose a lot of players in this year's draft, at least on the offense side of the ball. Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. Baylor's always going to get good recruits. They're Alabama.
Mike Norvell, James Franklin over at Penn State. That's an odd one to me because James Franklin, when he has gone against Ohio State and Michigan, he has not won. So yeah. I'm surprised that his name is being linked to a program like Alabama.
I'll throw you a couple NFL names that are both in the NFL right now. One of them, and you're going to laugh at me for saying this, but he did just coach at Alabama a year ago, and that's Bill O'Brien. Could Bill make a good college head coach? We saw what he did at Penn State. You saw what he did at Penn State. He wasn't the worst coach in the world, I would say, at Penn State. Maybe give him that Alabama platform. The other one would be Brian Daboll with the Giants. Daboll decides if they're a mess at quarterback, he can't fix it. Doesn't sound likely, but could Daboll make that jump from the NFL back to college?
That would be an interesting move. I don't see that happening, though.
Man, fascinating stuff.